Some of this will be Cody, and some of this will be me. I'll start, and then you'll need to fill in some of the blanks.
Okay, I'll be ready.
Okay. We met with the Elementary Transition Committee once this fall. We talked to them about the teacher choice options and things that we explained to them, the principals, and I know we've talked about that in some of the committee meetings. They went back and they have shared that with the staff in their buildings, so that the teachers are all aware of how that process will work. We have programmed the space, and I've met last spring. I met with the principals, and we of each of the buildings, and we went through each building and went through their space and how much we would program for each building, keeping in mind the goals at Cotterell of elimination of use of portable buildings. Keeping in mind at Fogarty the elimination of the use of spaces that we deem not appropriate for classrooms but are being used for classrooms. We've got some spaces that shouldn't be being used at Fogarty, but we've got nowhere else to put the kids. An example is the portables that aren't really portables at Fogarty are in really bad shape. We've talked about you guys may or may not know, we have 2 classrooms that are actually behind the stage in the auditorium. That's a bad environment. But one of the things that we've talked about is that was originally a music/drama room and it was all one room, and they put up a partition in there to get 2 classrooms out of it. Potentially taking that wall down, turning that back into a music room. And so when you have a music room, that you want them away from the rest of the classrooms, and so that provides that separation, and then they can utilize the auditorium as classroom space as well if they want to, and they're just right there. So those are some of the things that we've talked about as we reprogram how we would use our space. We went through and put numbers together with our classroom targets, and those targets were 20 with the early childhood, 23, 25, and 27, depending on the grade. And but that doesn't mean we'll have 27 in every class. We might have, depending on our numbers and how they get situated, we might have 25, we might have 24, or we might have 28, depending on how those students get parceled out. And so the principals are all aware of that as we get ready to staff the buildings. I believe that, Doug, when are we going to send out those?
The Tuesday we come back from fall break.
Okay. And so, and we will begin collecting the teacher requests for where they would like to teach. And so that we can look at how that jigsaw puzzle works together. And the thing I've stressed with the Ad Council, with the transition committee, and with this board, is there's not a blueprint for what we're doing. But we're trying to involve as many different people from as many different parts of this, moving parts of this activity as possible to troubleshoot in advance of that. The committee toured last spring every building that we have that's going to be involved in this. They looked at playground equipment, they looked at restrooms, they looked at the spaces I'm talking about that really are not great spaces for classrooms. And we debriefed after every meeting about what we saw. Cody and Carmen, of course, were on all of those meetings. Doug was on as many as he could be on. And as Cody went through looking at some of the plumbing issues, and we have some plumbing needs that where we have some buildings that have very small little kids toilets. You know, we're going in with Charter Oak with regular toilets, and our plan is to utilize those district-wide. Cody has put some budget figures together that he can share with you about that. We have some rough budget figures on moving expenses, because we can't do all of this without with just our staff. We're going to have to contract out for some moving expenses. And then the last piece of this, most of our playground equipment is, if we move it, it must become compliant. It has to reach a higher level of compliance than what it can. And so, Cody, you want to hit on all that?
Sure. Plumbing, like Dr. Simpson was talking about, is we've got to make everything standard. So you're going in there replacing all the toilets, urinals, things like that, to meet what each building will have. So we're looking at about 5,000, maybe a little bit more, because what we don't know is when we start replacing all that is when we get behind the walls and what some of our plumbing issues may be. So we're figuring around 5,000, maybe a little bit more than that, to take care of all the plumbing needs at Colorado. Colorado's all little. They're all, you know, yay high. And so all those have to be changed out. There's a few at Central, and then there's a couple at Fogarty we have to change out as well. So that's the smallest issue of what we're trying to do with the plumbing, as long as the piping and all those things are okay when we get behind some walls and we start doing all that. So the next issue is our playgrounds. We're trying to add a piece to each one of the grade schools that meet that need. For instance, like at Colorado, we think there is, because it's pre-K and K, we would assume there's a lot of pre-K and K playground equipment. But all that in that west side back there that we have now is really for older kids. So as far as the second, third, and fourth graders, we're good with all, especially the wooden pieces that are out there that you climb on, things like that. All those pieces are really made, anything 4 foot or 5 foot or higher, which those are. You go by the steps, when you step up to the slides and everything, there's usually 5 steps in those over there at Colorado. So those are made for the older kids. What we're going to end up doing is taking out, there's 3 swing sets on the north side. We're going to take out one of the swing sets and put in a pre-K and K playground equipment for that spot right over there. That's what we're looking at doing there. At Central, we're going to add a piece. We're going to take out, there's actually a piece that's probably looks like it's 2,000, somewhere in that range, on the west side. That is for pre-K and kindergarten, and we're going to take out that piece and take it over to Fogarty and take out, there's this one piece that drives me batty because it's a bunch of bars and kids are swinging on it, standing on it, and it just, I don't want anybody to get hurt, so we're going to take that piece out and put that pre-K and K piece in. So that won't really cost any money except for moving it. And then at Fogarty, when we took out that one piece, we're going to add another piece to that as well. So total, playground's not cheap. Just for those one pieces, we're looking at about $50,000. Somewhere in that ballpark.
$50,000? Wow.
And does that have to be done for school to start?
No. But you gotta have, you know, what you want from the kids when you're making this transition. I will say this, and it's just me speaking. You want to have things for all the kids to be able to play on. I think you do. I think it's the right thing to do for all the kids, each one of the sites, and getting those in. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. When I say a piece, I can show you pictures of it. Afterwards, we want to look at them, we can look at them together.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying, give them a ball. I mean,
Well, but this is, again, these are expenses that we were planning on. That's why we're trying to build up our building fund, so that we have the ability to do this and not be in a pinch somewhere else. Because anytime you open a new building, you're going to have expenses that are unforeseen. And anytime you do what we're doing here, you're going to have expenses that are unforeseen as well.
What about the playground at Charter Oak, is that already in the new school construction cost?
No.
Did we do an allowance? I cannot remember.
No, we did not.
So this 50,000 is just for central.
Central Poverty and
But
Colorado.
remember, we're under budget on Charter Oak, too.
So, school's out this year, assuming this is gonna happen, and I'm going to assume that every classroom is gonna be 100% cleaned out. Because you can't leave the teachers in there because they're not gonna stay in the same rooms. They're gonna move. So everybody's teacher's gonna get to take their personal stuff home, which is where it needs to go and sort through. And we're gonna box everything else up, so we may be able to be using some PTO funds to help buy boxes to box everything or something. My point is, they're going to have to come in, clean those rooms, paint them, and that kind of stuff. So are we going to start the toilets and stuff earlier? Because you're asking an awful lot in one summer for as small a staff as you have, unless we're going to contract some of this out. I don't see how you all can get it all done in one summer.
Are we talking about moves?
The moves, the cleaning the new classrooms, the repainting of the classrooms in the old schools, because they're not going to go into, they got to be cleaned up too.
We have to pre-plan this before we leave school in May.
But can't we start toilets before then?
We can bring it. Do you want?
Couldn't we start toilets and stuff before then?
Yes.
Like on the holidays and stuff, and get some of that done? I think there's an awful lot that needs to happen in the summer. That's going to be really hard to get it all done by as short a staff as we have. Maybe
Well, I
I'm
think
wrong,
the
but
The moves, because the moves are so dynamic, because even if we have, you know, there's 30 teachers let's say there's 30 teachers at Fogarty, all 30 teachers can end up moving to a classroom. So you got to be able to pre-plan that, get boxes to them, and you just can't throw in, you know, grocery boxes and everything else.
No.
The easiest thing to do
It
is
needs
get
to
boxes
be.
from. I've done this in the past. There's an expense to this, guys. I'm not
There
going
needs-
to sugarcoat it.
Have we gotten,
That's why I
you
said
have like a
PDF that
timeline, I'd like to
possibly
see
or
like
something.
broken down by site, what needs to be done, an estimate of cost, a timeline, you know, associated with that as to when we're gonna start and complete these projects with all of these other sites. I mean, so we can kind of look at it, I mean, so we're not just flying blind. I mean, because there's gonna be all kinds of stuff that comes up, you know, that we didn't think about or whatever, but at least if we have it broken down by site, by what projects need to be done to get it up to par, to put an estimated of cost on that, a time of, you know, when we're gonna start this project, when we need to get it completed, you know, just so we kind of have this big picture of what's gonna be going on, because there is going to be a lot of movement in this district this year. And so I mean, not just for me, but I would think that would be something that would be extremely helpful for you.
I can put together a timeline.
And what I was saying was, and I'm not, I don't like $50,000 for playground equipment, but I understand it. What I was saying is, if you have to replace, if we're at Cotterill, 2 of the, I don't know how many toilets, but let's say there's 5 in the bathroom. If we did 2 of them, could they not get by, you know what I mean? There's still little people, I mean, virtually little people, or do you have to change every?
You're still gonna have little people there.
Right, you're still gonna have some little people there. Do you have to replace all the toilets before school starts to try to lighten your load? Did you do half?
And I don't, the toilets are a real minor thing.
Why not?
That's not, and yeah, we can do that in the middle of the year.
Oh, I don't think I was
That's-
trying to say the toilets were, it's just that we don't have that big a staff,
Yeah.
in my opinion, for all that we have to get
Well,
done.
and that's why the moving, we'll have to contract.
Move first,
out.
and
Okay.
toilets later.
But there are things that and the reason we convened that committee last fall, or last spring, was to start identifying how big of a task this is. And I think we have a pretty good handle on at least the start of how big of a task this is. But the other piece to this puzzle that quite frankly, until Tuesday morning, I didn't believe that we could even have the discussion about going to grade centers, going away from grade centers for next school year.
Does that committee put a report that we got? I don't remember
No,
seeing.
no, we have,
Okay.
no, I'm talking about Tuesday when we met with Charles in a construction meeting.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
So what are you, if we're looking at $50,000 in playground equipment in the move and all this, what are you guessing the playground's gonna cost us at Charter Oak?
oh, Sean, what's playground cost these days?
It depends on if we decide to do, well, about 35,000.
You can spend as much on it as you want.
Yeah.
And you could do two, well, not including the surface, not the surface, but the equipment. I mean, a typical school, you'll spend about 35. So if you have one for early childhood and one for a little bit older kids, you'll end up spending about 70. But then you might spend another 20 on base, on
But-
wood chips, or if you do rubber mulch or something.
Gina, when we started this odyssey, I sat down with Brett Town and Edmund and asked him, what do you guys do? Because they've opened as many new schools as anybody on this side of the state. And he never budgets in Edmond for playground equipment. That is always a PTO expectation.
Well,
And yeah, I know the difference of what we're talking about, and I'm well aware of that. But I think Jennifer's right. You can spend as much as you want to. Remember, we do have in here basketball goals and a slab for the kids to play on there. Some minimal playground equipment, not the everything, and then the PTO group when they become well organized. And I expect all of our PTO groups to be much better organized because we are in neighborhood schools. They can generate that money, and they will want to generate that money for that school because they will have an attachment to that school for multiple years. And so that's kind of what has been through my head about the need of Charter Oak, as well as the needs of the other sides as we go through this and need different playground equipment.
but we're still gonna have to put something there when
Yeah.
school opens.
Yeah.
So you're thinking maybe $50,000 to $60,000 for
Oh, I don't
this
think we
one?
need that much, probably. I don't know. What do you think? Charter Oak? Yeah.
They're already getting basketball for it. They're getting something there, nobody else has all
But the
that.
girls won't want to play basketball.
Get two balls.
Yeah, well, we didn't allow, in our bond, we weren't talking about playground there. That wasn't,
Well, I like the PTO idea because $50,000 for equipment. I mean, he's talking about one good piece of equipment, 50 grand or
No,
No, we're talking all three sides.
all three sides.
Yeah.
That's
That's,
Golly, that's right.
I just gave Dr. Simpson a company that I used this last summer for playground equipment for child development at OSU.
Yeah.
And they are really good to work with. I was trying to find the estimate in the website so you can see what type of equipment. You can spend as much as you want on playground equipment, but this company, and we had to bid it out as a state entity, we had to bid it out. And this one came in significantly less than a lot of the others because they'll work with you to customize to what age group you're dealing with and get you pieces that you can build on later. So maybe you start with something small and then the PTO builds, something later.
build as you go, as you run.
So I gave him that information if you want to contact them.
Yeah.
And I on the playground and on the moving, I kind of go high just because I do that. There's always different options, but if I tell you it's going to cost you 10 and it ends up costing you 50, I don't want to be in that boat. So that's why I do what I'm doing. Moving can be expensive. It takes, because we're moving, because I think most everybody is going to move. You've got to have that coordinated to make it work. I had no intentions of my guys being able to do that. We don't have the time to be able to do it in the summertime or anywhere else. So we have to contract that out. We're not going to put in the playground equipment either. We're going to remove some of the stuff for them. We can cut it and do some things to it where it'll be safe and we can get it out of there. But as far as the moving goes, I've dealt a long time with moving companies when I was at Oklahoma City Schools and we had all that going on. So the people I used are good. They know what they're doing. And we're talking about 125 boxes averaging per classroom. That's just on their stuff, books, whatever we got to end up moving, and things like that. So when you're going looking at that kind of stuff, you're looking at a number between 40 and 70 just to move those things. But you're talking about 3 or 4 schools having to move those things. And you're talking about teachers going could be from classroom 17 to classroom 21. That's a move. They still got to pack and be able to move. And we got to be able to get that coordinated as much as we can before school's out, so they can get all their packing done, so we can move some of that stuff during the summer, take that load off everybody. Because we know they're going to come in as quick as they can when we finally open up and get their rooms set up and things like that. So there's ways to do it. These guys work with it. We actually have meetings with the teachers and the principal, walk them through everything, and get them ready. But we got to bid that out as well when we do all this. But most everybody does it the same way. So the move, if we get the right people in there, I'm not concerned about it, because I've done a whole lot more than this. And it's complicated, but it's doable if we get everything organized and kind of pre-planned before school is out in May, if we end up going this direction.
Just trying to help.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cody. I never knew that stuff was that expensive.
Well, you got to remember back, when I was having to move in on school started on August 1st, and we had 15 to 20 buildings to start moving into on that Friday before August 1st. They looked like a bunch of ants moving things into those buildings. Literally, we're moving in the weekend before.
Right.
Okay, and you just saw rows of there was just lines of people moving 2-wheelers and everything else, moving their furniture and boxes and things like that. So it's not a simple thing to do, but we're well organized.
Okay. Anything else that you guys can think of that we need to talk about on elementary transition?
What about the boundaries?
Well, given the information that I've been told tonight, I believe that the appetite of the board and the contractor and staff is that we want to go to neighborhood schools next year. In order to draw those boundaries, I need some help. And when we had the discussion, when we sent out that RFP, we were not behind. And so I was not prepared to have a discussion about using a demographic firm again until we were told that we would be in next year. I will tell you that I had some discussions the next day with the gentleman that presented to us, and I think how he communicated what he meant and what he meant to say were two different things. And what he meant to say was that he provides an opportunity for someone that is educated at laying this stuff out without a personal bias to the community. I know that was not, what he said was not well received by a couple of board members at least, but that has not changed the fact that we're going to need some help. And that's, I think, Dee, is there anything else that you can think of?
Well, one of the things I did was, generally, we have part of the OTA board, so we have a meeting every month. We try and meet with some of the tech directors from across the state. I brought that subject up to them. Eric Heilman in Oklahoma City said, "Oh, I've got this great thing." So he showed it to me. It's awesome. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff. But it's going to cost us $11,000 to do it the first year and $7,000 every year thereafter. So
It's a software that.
it's a software service is what it amounts to.
You put in the students' addresses and then it starts mapping it out for you.
Well, you still have to do all the mapping, but it provides you with some demographic information, shows where all your students are. you still have to manually go draw all that data. So they took it to begin with. I think they used some of their transportation software and imported all of their data. So now all they're doing with it is just moving lines. So when one area grows significantly, they can move a line 2 or 3 streets.
Now,
But-
does our transportation software, does it not provide
Doesn't
some
have that.
similar, doesn't have all the dots that Terry likes to
You
keep
say
up
yet.
with?
I
You
mean,
said yet.
yeah. And the transportation software we're using right now is awesome, okay? But it's being built as we go along.
So does it have the capability?
Not yet.
Not to draw. I mean, we can pinpoint where all the kids are living now, but we don't have it to where we can draw the
We don't
lines.
have it, there's no boundary planning element in it, okay?
What do we, is it something you would want to go off and go on to this other type of software that
Or-
draws boundaries?
For the one I'm talking about in Oklahoma City,
Mhm.
I'm just looking at the sheer money. It's gonna cost us, X amount every year to do it. And then
11,000 to
we,
begin with and 7,000 each year
Yeah.
after?
so we're gonna, 2 years, we're gonna be above what this guy's gonna be able to do it, and we shouldn't have to pay him.
Is that the only software out there?
I'd have to go look and see what else is there. That's just the first one that I found that somebody was using. I know Mustang's using Versatrans. That's what they use for their transportation, and so that's where they draw their boundaries. So,
Well, I apologize to the other members of the board, but what that man stood right up there and said was, we hire him because we don't want to face the public. And I understand that, but that's what he said when he was standing right here. We hire him, people hire him, so we don't have to face the public or to hide behind something to get reelected. And I'm not gonna vote now, tomorrow, next week, or next year for that.
I don't think he said anything about getting reelected, but what he did say.
Did he not, Travis?
No, just give the board cover.
Give the board cover. Well,
And-
he implied that, in my opinion.
But,
He said scapegoat is what he said.
Scapegoat,
Yeah,
right?
that's,
but
That's the term.
I think, one thing to think about here is, there is a human element. And if you rely totally on the software that we don't even own, that human element of someone that can predict meaningful predictions of future growth as well is a valuable component, so that we don't have to do this again in a very soon time frame after kids have gotten attached to a building and parents have gotten attached to a building and things like that.
No, so I had a question, maybe it's pretty simplistic, Dee, but, 4 or 5 years ago, when we began the Long Range Planning Committee, we had this map with that, the dots that we refer to. And, I understand that's, maybe this is overly simplistic, but we know where the kids live based on the presentation at the last the September board meeting. Seems like a lot of the growth assumptions are going to be pretty hard to identify or predict because of the unincorporated areas. So why can't we just take those dots and just, we know how many kids live everywhere, and just draw your own partition? I mean, you know how many classrooms you have at each location. You can plug in some growth models, some assumptions that the census data could probably provide as well, and just come up with something loose. I mean, the guy back in September didn't strike much confidence in me that he would even have good data to go to, other than just to make some general assumptions. I mean, he's
What we already
right there in the
know.
proposal. I mean, right off the bat, he said, we'll probably assume 2% for South Logan County. Well, I'm not real confident that there's gonna be a lot of scientific.
And we've got 6% growth down there right now
So
because look at
Property value.
property value, but there is a higher than 2% growth down there, isn't there? I thought there was.
But anyway, just going back to these dots, is it not possible just to draw the lines based on, we got
If
20 classrooms down there, we've got 15 at Colorado, and then
If we spend the money on the software to be able to draw that. Because the first time that when we really started planning this, we had a transportation software that had a boundary planning element to it. So it had the tools in it to be able to draw those pictures.
What are we
and I
using
could-
now? Which software?
What we're using now is called Easy Routing. And
How long have we had this one? Because,
this is the first year that we've transferred into this.
so, I guess we had Transpar previously, right?
Well, we had TransFinder. TransFar was the
TransFinder.
management company.
Yeah. So, and we never utilized that software package, so now we've gone to a new one?
We use the TransFinder. We have migrated to Easy Routing because it is, I can't tell you how much better than TransFinder was. We had so many difficulties using that software.
I mean, TransFinder was supposed to be the cat's meow. from what I
It was,
remember.
that's the way it was
And then-
put
So
out.
now we're,
The one I used was the Edulog software. So, and we purchased the boundary planning piece for it when we wanted to try and do some of
but I
this.
guess, so this kind of leads to my next question is, paying for the demographic study, they say it'll be good for 5 years. But I'm not too confident that information is going to be relevant 5 years from now, based on some admission from him that it may be hard to quantify or determine some growth rates in certain areas of the district. So would we be better off having a software package that we pay, renewal $7,000 a year that can continue to adjust over time?
That I can't answer because I've never done this, so I can't tell you that we can go do it and it'll be just as good. I don't know. And I think, weren't you planning on doing a kind of an overlay from the data that we've put together the last few years?
That was gonna be helpful, but we don't have the ability software-wise or,
Right.
even laying it out like we lay it out now, 2 kids in one household are right on top of each other. You can't see 2 kids in one household.
Well, the apartments is the other.
Yeah, so
There's
the
one
dots,
dot for 20
there's
So
more to the dots than you see.
So the dots don't indicate the age of the child either? There's not, are they color coded where we would know whether it's
We can
it's
separate
a
by
second
grade.
grader or a high schooler?
We can separate by grade.
Yes.
Okay.
But 2 kids in one household,
Is the one dot,
it turns into 1 dot if you've got both grades there.
if they're in
That
the
they're
same
in.
grade?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
But
then-
if they're in, say,
No,
if
you
they're
can-
first and second grade, are they 2 dots?
Only if you have both grades up there.
For anybody to.
If you have first and second grade on the chart, then they both cover each other up.
If you have first only, it wouldn't.
Yeah. And so, trying to get pre-K through 4 all together,
It won't sort it out.
it won't sort it out unless you do it by grade. And then you don't have, then you're,
You basically have 4 different charts for
yeah,
each grade.
and then you're trying to have an overlay
I thought
on
we,
it.
yeah.
It's,
So
That program.
I'd like to know,
We didn't?
do you think it's not possible without an outside firm? Is that what you're telling us?
I don't have confidence that we can do this without an outside firm. Could we do it? Yes. Will it be good? It might not be. Because Dee just said he's never done this before. I've never done this before.
If that guy does it, will it be good?
I believe it will.
But that guy, I mean, the outside firm, what he's projecting is for about 2 years, and then we're.
Doing it again,
Yeah,
hiring
we're
again?
there again.
But we could also get to a point, once we draw these lines, we can get to a point where we can move them if we need to.
But do we need this software then? Do we need the $11,000 software where it actually makes the boundaries where we can move the boundaries?
Maybe, maybe not.
At that
Because-
point, we could be purchasing something from transportation that they have.
But we don't know at this point if there's any other software out there that does this for you or not.
No.
Well, you said Mustang uses
Their transportation software.
Yeah.
but
Versatrans.
Versatrans
And-
software, and it's $11,000 the first year and
No, that's,
$7,000.
no, that's not Versatrans.
That's not-
Versatrans is much more than that.
Yeah, Versatrans, that's the reason we don't use Versatrans is because they're so expensive.
What'd you say was 11,000 the first year?
That's the software that Oklahoma City is using.
Oh, Oklahoma City.
Yeah. And
But
they're
that
just,
only locates the kids, it doesn't draw the lines, correct?
you can actually draw lines.
It will draw lines,
It will
okay.
draw lines in it.
Okay.
So,
What do we pay for the easy routing? Approximately
3, 1,
I don't know.
I think it's around 3,000.
a year.
Yeah, but that helps our running our bus routes and all that kind of stuff. So,
So, I
and
mean,
we will get there with that. It's a new program and it's much friendlier. Like Dee said, it works out a whole lot better for us. I was pulling up names today when we had a situation today going on that I could not pull up on TransFinder when we had that. It was just too cumbersome. TransFinder was simply made for, they're a huge company, made United States that wide. And they didn't make it for Guthrie. This easy routing is made for Guthrie only. And it's really easy to use and work with.
What will it take to get it to the point
I
that
need
it
to
could
ask-
do it?
I need to ask that question to the guy who does that for us. And I will do that. And I'll give you guys an answer on that.
So is easy routing, it's a company we buy the software from, or is it somebody local that has created this program? for Guthrie?
He's outside of Oklahoma. He was actually here with the company.
With Transpar, he was
Transpar.
with Transpar,
Mhm.
and then branched off and wrote his own program.
I see.
And so they got the guy from TransFinder, started their own company and created this software package that's much district friendlier for us. And it's really been good for us here.
So he may or may not have something that could draw lines.
Yes, we plan on going there. I just don't know how soon we can get there.
So if we went with the consulting firm and got some lines, this is possibly something in 2 years.
Yeah,
Easy
Yeah.
routing would have lines where we could move those lines if we needed.
that's a conversation that Dale and I had, the gentleman that we're talking about,
Mhm.
way back when he was still with Transpar, that he was gonna add that at some point. But I think once we get the lines drawn, it's a whole lot easier to move them once we have them drawn. Because you're not moving them a lot. You've got a framework to work from, based on a lot of different things.
Can we ask the easy routing guy when he thinks boundaries might be in the program?
I'll ask him tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What was this other, how much was he asking for? This, Yeah.
15,000.
15?
Yeah, and the other submission was 24,500.
And it would take him 3 months to do the survey.
That 15,000 wasn't the total, was it? I think it said 15,000 plus $50 an hour for every hour he had to come on site.
No, that was if he needed additional work beyond the 15,000. Beyond the study.
beyond that scope of work.
Yeah.
And he'll give us 3 suggestions, right? 3 boundary suggestions.
Yeah, you guys will pick from the menu.
So will that be on the November agenda?
Let's see what the, if
I
the
was gonna say,
boundaries
because
are
then
coming.
he'd be able to bring us back other information.
We don't know if there's software out there that'll do this, or that one that might do this, but
I mean, I think we definitely have a lot of avenues we need to explore before we make a decision.
When they do that, or when he does that bring in to tell us how much free and reduced lunch we have at every school? Does it tell us the special needs we have at every school? I mean, or is it just gonna be people?
It'll be people. But, you know, my experience so far in Guthrie has been that we don't have geographic areas of concentration of anything, which is probably a product of a lot of years of grade centers. I don't, you guys know the first 3 years I was here, I drove just about every dirt road in our school district, and I could never identify pockets of any kind of socioeconomic status that would be a concentration for one elementary school.
Special needs is an area that we do totally different than regular routing. We don't even group that group together with the regular routing because they're all over the place. And we have 7 routes that do that. So that's a different ballgame right there. And we do need, before we start moving lines, indeed whoever's going to end up moving lines, we do need to have those established by somebody who knows what they're doing. I really believe that, tell you guys that, because that's, especially in the first year when we're doing all this, it's going to be huge that we hit a home run with this, because everybody's going to want to go to a certain school. And we've got to make sure we get it drawn up to where we don't run into something when school get ready to start, because everybody's going to be asking, how come I can't go to Charter Oaks, or how come I can't go to Colorado, whatever the situation may be. So we need somebody that can actually, at least at the beginning, pinpoint and draw up a boundaries for us for each one of the schools we're going to. I really believe that.
So we have buses for the special needs. We have special vehicles that pick them up, is that correct?
Correct.
With having the schools like we are we gonna be looking at, we're gonna have to purchase more of those type of vehicles to accommodate?
Not with the extra school, no. It's what Guthrie is being known for having a real good special needs program. So we're actually growing. That's why we actually were at 6 last year, and now we're at 7. And when I was at Tahlequah, the same type of size student population wise, we had 2 buses for special needs. We had a north, we had a south. Here we have 7 of them because it's so big. So the difference in what we're going to do won't make a big difference, depending on where we take them and things like that. So
remember too that the plan is to relocate some of the special needs services to guests that are currently at Cotterell or at some other sites to centralize that as much as the law allows, so that we can provide better services with